Joining me now is Afshin Molavi. He's a senior fellow at the Foreign Policy Institute at the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies. Well, let's start with this controversial interview. It almost seems like he's kneecapping his host. What did you make of it?
Absolutely. I mean, it did feel very much like he was kneecapping his host. And, you know, this was an extraordinary moment because here you have the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom who has a lot of trouble at home, defections from her own Conservative Party, having a really hard time getting through the Brexit that she wants to get through. The President of the United States comes in and basically says, you know, one of her departing cabinet ministers would make a fine Prime Minister, you know, and that if she goes through with this particular Brexit plan that she hashed out with her colleagues in the cabinet, then there is no U.S. trade deal on the horizon. So it certainly is unorthodox, but that's not new with this president.
Well, and it comes on the heels of what he did to Angela Merkel, who also has her own problems politically back in Germany.
That's right. I mean, it's important to remember that, you know, President Trump should remember that, you know, he's not the only one who has domestic politics. You know, these leaders have domestic politics as well. And look, you know, these are not policy technocrats coming together, right? You know, because people say, well, ignore the style, ignore the theatrics, and focus on the substance. Fine. If we could focus on the substance, and we will. But the important thing is that these are prime ministers and chancellors and presidents, and theatrics matter. You know, words matter. The style does matter. And when he comes in there like a bulldog, really, and you know, barrels over Angela Merkel to some extent, kneecaps Theresa May, it's not a good look, and it doesn't help advance some of the causes he wants to push.
And then, of course, one of the other things that's coming up, the protocol gaffes with the Queen walking in front of her. There were people that were concerned that he might slip up. What's your takeaway on that?
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's. I think there was people certainly in this town who would like to see him slip up, you know, in these kind of things, and you know, this is almost his idea. Look, one of the ironies of President Donald Trump is he really does believe that the U.S.-UK relationship is a special relationship. He genuinely believes that in his core. I mean, you talk to Trump administration officials, they will tell you that. He was, during the press conference, you saw Mike, he was saying, well, let's take it to the highest level of special, you know, this relationship. He genuinely believes that. So this visit is very important to him, but he certainly didn't like those protests in London.
Well, that was going to be my next question, the highest level of protests, including the blimp of baby Donald. What do you think is going to be the takeaway there?
You know, I think it was interesting that the remarks he made about immigration, right? He's going to feel that he's talking directly to, quote unquote, Middle England, whatever that means, right? The heartland of the United Kingdom. And those people in London, oh, they're just, you know, sore losers, you know, in his view. And you know, there is, that was a very interesting moment because here was a president of the United States telling European leaders, be careful about this whole migration issue, while sending a signal back home as well. I think that was very important.
Up next, of course, golf, and then after golf, Helsinki, meeting with Vladimir Putin, Senator John McCain, and other lawmakers saying he should just call off this trip. We're going to talk a little bit later in the newscast about these indictments. We mentioned it earlier. That's not going to happen, but what about the dynamics of this thing? It didn't look good initially. How does this play?
Yeah, you know, here's another instance where kind of the substance versus style. You know, substantively, the United States has not been soft on Russia, right? The United States, under the Trump administration, has expelled Russian diplomats, has indicted Russian oligarchs, has targeted Russian companies. But it comes, you know, Donald Trump does not trust the Mueller investigation, right? So he's, you know, not likely to go in there and give Vladimir Putin a hard time, though he ought to, because, Mike, you know how important elections are here in the United States. They're sacred, you know, to American politics. And here the special counsel is saying that, you know, Russian operatives connected with the intelligence agency of Russia colluded to interfere in the U.S. elections. Now, there was no sign that there was collusion with anyone from the Trump administration, but it's still a very serious charge, and the President of the United States can't just go to Vladimir Putin and ask him, hey, did you do this? you know, he does need to confront him in a very serious way in this, on this issue.
Well, we'll be watching for that. It'll be interesting, as the rest of this trip has been.
That's
Afshin
right. Thank you,
Molavi,
Mike.
thanks so much.